Every great transformation in life doesn't begin with a giant leap. It begins with a single step, repeated again and again until it becomes second nature. Habits are the invisible architects of your destiny. They work quietly in the background, shaping who you are becoming even when you're not paying attention. Motivation may give you the push to start, but habits are what keep you moving when motivation fades. Today, we dive into the true power of positive habits. Small actions that compound over time to create extraordinary results and shape the future you've always dreamed of. Part 1. The foundation of habits. Why habits matter more than motivation, and how they quietly build or break your future. Habits are the quiet forces that determine who we become. Most people think their life is shaped by big moments, graduations, job offers, relationships, or sudden opportunities. But the truth is that our lives are actually built in the small moment we repeat every single day. These moments might look insignificant at first glance, like brushing your teeth, scrolling on your phone, or choosing what to eat for breakfast. But each one adds up, over weeks, months, and years. These repeated actions harden into patterns. Those patterns form your identity, and your identity ultimately directs the course of your life. This is why habits matter far more than bursts of motivation. Motivation is exciting, it feels powerful, and it can light a spark, but it doesn't last. Habits, on the other hand, are consistent. They don't ask for permission, they don't rely on your mood, and they don't wait for the perfect timing. They just show up quietly every day, shaping you whether you realize it or not. Think about the last time you felt highly motivated. Maybe you watched an inspiring video, read a life-changing book, or listened to a powerful speech that lit a fire inside you. For a few hours, or maybe even a few days, you felt unstoppable. You had the energy, the excitement, and the willpower to take action. But eventually, that feeling faded. The same energy that lifted you began to wear off. That's because motivation is like a burst of fuel. It burns bright but doesn't last forever. If you don't have habits in place to carry you forward when motivation disappears, you stop moving. Habits are the system that keep you going when your emotions fluctuate. They are the guardrails that keep your life on track when motivation is nowhere to be found. The truth is, our brains are designed for habits. Every time you repeat an action, your brain wires itself to make that action easier the next time. This is how habits become automatic. For example, when you first learned how to ride a bike or drive a car, it felt difficult and overwhelming. But with repetition, it became natural. You don't even think about it anymore. That's the power of habit. Your brain saves energy by turning repeated behaviors into routines that run on autopilot. This works in both directions. If you repeat positive actions, they become automatic strengths that build your life. If you repeat negative actions, they become destructive routines that slowly eat away at your potential. Habits also influence how we see ourselves. If you go to the gym consistently, even for a short workout, you start to see yourself as someone who takes care of their health. If you read every day, even for just 10 minutes, you begin to view yourself as a reader, a learner, and someone who values growth. This shift in identity is powerful because once you believe something about yourself, you naturally act in alignment with that belief. On the other hand, if you constantly procrastinate or make excuses, you start seeing yourself as someone who doesn't follow through. That identity reinforces a habit, and the cycle continues. This is why habits are not just actions, they are mirrors of who you are becoming. Another reason habits matter more than motivation is because habits compound over time. Imagine two people who start with almost identical lives. One decides to build a small positive habit, like reading 10 pages a day, and the other builds a small negative habit, like scrolling on social media for an extra 30 minutes a day. In a week, the difference is barely noticeable. In a month, there's still not much change. But in a year, the first person has read several books, gained knowledge, and expanded their thinking, while the second person has wasted hundreds of hours and achieved very little. The compounding effect of habits is invisible at first, but it becomes undeniable over time. This is why successful people often credit their results not to massive changes, but to small, consistent actions. Habits also reduce the mental effort required to succeed. When something becomes a habit, you don't debate whether you should do it. You just do it. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't wake up and ask yourself, should I brush my teeth today? You simply do it because it's part of your routine. If you can build habits in important areas of your life, like exercising, eating well, working on your goals, or learning, you remove the constant battle of willpower. Success becomes automatic because a decision has already been made in advance by your routine. This frees up mental energy for creativity, problem solving, and growth instead of wasting it on daily decision making. Now, some people believe they fail in life because they lack motivation, but the real problem is that they lack systems. Motivation is emotional. Systems are structural. If you build strong habits, you don't need to rely on feeling motivated every day. Your habits carry you forward even when you're tired, stressed, or unmotivated. For example, an athlete doesn't train every day because they feel motivated. They train because it's a habit that supports their identity and goals. Writers don't produce books because they suddenly feel inspired every morning. They sit down to write daily, even when they don't feel like it, because it's a habit. Motivation might get you started, but habits keep you moving, and consistency delivers the results. It's also important to recognize that habits work silently. They don't give you instant results, and this is why many people quit before habits can show their power. Think of planting a seed. You don't see a tree overnight. You water the seed daily, nurture it, and trust that growth is happening underground even if you can't see it. Then, one day, the roots are strong enough and the tree breaks through the surface. Habits are like those seeds. At first, you don't notice much. You might go to the gym for a week and not see changes in your body. You might read for a month and not feel smarter. But beneath the surface, change is happening. Your brain is rewiring, your body is adjusting, and your mindset is shifting. Over time, those invisible shifts become visible results. Another truth about habits is that they don't just affect one area of your life. They create ripple effects everywhere. For example, if you build a habit of waking up early and exercising, that one change can improve your health, boost your energy, sharpen your focus, and even increase your confidence. On the flip side, a negative habit like staying up late scrolling your phone doesn't just steal your sleep. It makes you less productive, more irritable, and more likely to make poor decisions the next day. This interconnectedness is why it's so important to guard your habits carefully. Every habit you build or break has consequences that reach far beyond the action itself. Habits also reveal your priorities, whether you admit them or not. You can say health is important to you, but if your daily habits include skipping workouts, eating fast food, and avoiding rest, your actions speak louder than your words. You can say success matters to you, but if your habits include procrastination, wasting time, and avoiding responsibility, your results will show the truth. Habits don't lie. They are honest reflections of what you actually value. If you want to change your life, you must start by changing your habits. Finally, habits are the true builders of your future because they are sustainable. Anyone can be motivated for a week. Anyone can push hard for a month. But what about 10 years? What about 20? Habits create longevity. They allow you to build a lifestyle where success is not a sprint, but a marathon you can actually finish. Habits are not about temporary change. They are about permanent transformation. They don't just give you results. They make you into the kind of person who can keep those results for life. When you understand this, you stop chasing motivation and start building habits. You stop waiting for the perfect moment and start shaping your daily actions. You stop trying to rely on willpower and start designing systems that support your goals. And over time, you begin to see the quiet, powerful truth. Your habits are writing the story of your life. They can either build you into the person you dream of becoming or quietly destroy your potential without you even noticing. The choice is always yours, and it's made not in big dramatic decisions, but in the small, repeated actions of every day. Part 2. Small actions, big results. Understanding the compounding effect of tiny daily choices. When people dream about success, they often imagine it arriving in one massive moment. A breakthrough deal, a sudden promotion, a viral idea, or a dramatic transformation that changes everything overnight. But real success doesn't work that way. The truth is that greatness is built not by rare moments of luck, but by countless small, consistent actions repeated over time. It's not about one giant leap, but about the quiet steps you take every day. Steps so small they often seem invisible at first. This is a compounding effect of habits, and it's one of the most powerful forces shaping your destiny. Let's begin with a simple idea. Small choices don't feel important in the moment. Skipping the gym today doesn't make you overweight tomorrow. Eating one unhealthy meal doesn't suddenly destroy your health. Spending 30 minutes scrolling on your phone instead of reading doesn't instantly make you uneducated. That's why these little decisions often slip under the radar. We think it's just one time. It doesn't matter. But life doesn't measure your results based on what you do one time. Life measures your results based on what you do repeatedly. The small actions you choose daily accumulate. They compound like interest in a bank account, quietly growing until the results are impossible to ignore. Consider money as an example, because compounding is easiest to see in finance. If you invest just $1 a day, it feels insignificant. After a week, you have $7. After a month, $30. That doesn't feel life-changing. But if you keep investing, and those small contributions grow with compound interest, years later you'll find yourself with thousands, even millions, depending on the time and rate of growth. This is the magic of compounding. It's slow in the beginning, almost invisible, but it becomes unstoppable over time. Habits work in the exact same way. A small action like walking for 20 minutes a day, saving a few dollars daily, or reading 10 minutes a night may not feel like much. But compounded over years, these tiny actions shape your health, your wealth, your knowledge, and ultimately, your future. The scary part is that compounding works in both directions, just as positive actions add up. So do negative ones. Skipping workouts, overspending, procrastinating, eating junk food, or wasting time scrolling. Each seems harmless in isolation, but when repeated daily, they compound into serious consequences. That's why people often wake up years later wondering how they got to a place they never wanted to be. They didn't ruin their lives in one big mistake. They did it slowly, through small daily choices that seemed meaningless at the time. The lesson here is clear. Every little choice is a vote for the future you are building. Let's make this more real with a story. Imagine two friends, Alex and Jordan. They are the same age, work at similar jobs, and live similar lifestyles. One day, Alex decides to make a small change. He'll read 10 pages of a book each night. Jordan, on the other hand, decides to relax a little more and spend 30 extra minutes scrolling on social media before bed. After 1 week, the difference is invisible. After 1 month, still not much change. After a year, Alex has read more than 3,600 pages, equivalent to 15 to 20 books, while Jordan has spent more than 180 hours mindlessly scrolling. Alex now has new ideas, knowledge, and skills, while Jordan has wasted hundreds of hours and feels exactly the same as before. After 5 years, Alex has grown in wisdom, confidence, and opportunities, while Jordan feels stuck in the same place, wondering why his life hasn't changed. What separated them? Not one giant decision, but the compounding effect of tiny daily actions. This principle applies to every area of life. In health, small actions determine your future body. If you choose to drink water instead of soda, to walk instead of sitting all day, or to cook a healthy meal instead of ordering fast food, you won't see an instant transformation. But repeated daily, these choices create a stronger, healthier, more energetic version of you. In relationships, small actions of kindness, like listening attentively, sending a thoughtful text, or saying thank you, may not feel monumental, but they compound into deeper trust, stronger bonds, and lasting love. In careers, small actions like showing up early, learning a new skill, or giving a little extra effort may not earn you immediate recognition, but they build a reputation that eventually leads to opportunities, promotions, and success. The key to unlocking the power of compounding is to focus on consistency, not intensity. Many people get caught up in dramatic changes. They want to lose weight fast, earn money fast, or achieve success overnight. They start strong, pushing themselves hard, but because it's unsustainable, they burn out and quit. Compounding doesn't work this way. The secret is not doing a lot once, it's doing a little consistently. Reading for 10 minutes a day beats reading for 3 hours once a month. Exercising for 20 minutes daily beats exercising intensely for 2 hours once every 2 weeks. Saving a few dollars daily beats trying to save a massive amount once a year. Compounding rewards consistency. But consistency doesn't just happen. It requires intention. One way to build consistent habits is to lower the barrier of entry. Make the habit so small you can't say no. For example, instead of saying, "I'll work out for an hour every day," start with, "I'll do 10 push-ups." Instead of saying, "I'll read a book every week," start with, "I'll read 1 page a day." Once you start, momentum builds, and often you'll do more than you planned. But even if you don't, you still win because you stayed consistent. This keeps the compounding effect alive. Another secret is to link your small actions to your identity. If you view yourself as someone who just tries to work out, you'll quit when life gets hard. But if you view yourself as a kind of person who never misses a workout, even a 5-minute exercise session reinforces your identity. That's powerful, because every small action you take is like casting a vote for the type of person you want to become. If you want to be healthy, each workout is a vote. If you want to be successful, each productive hour is a vote. If you want to be wise, each page you read is a vote. Over time, these votes add up, and your identity shifts. You no longer just do the habit. You become the person who lives that habit. It's also important to remember that compounding often feels slow in the beginning. This is where most people quit. They expect instant results, and when they don't see them, they lose faith. But compounding always has a delay before results show. It's like heating up ice. Imagine a block of ice sitting in a cold room. You slowly raise the temperature, 20 degrees, 25, 28, 30, 31. Nothing happens. Then suddenly, at 32 degrees, the ice begins to melt. Did the last degree cause a change? No. It was the accumulation of all the heat before that. Habits work the same way. You might not see progress for weeks or months, but every small action is adding heat. Then one day, the results appear suddenly, and everyone else calls it a breakthrough. But you know it was a compounding effect of all your tiny daily choices. This principle is also why you must be patient. The results of compounding don't show up immediately, but they always show up eventually. Impatience kills progress because it tricks you into thinking nothing is happening. But if you stay consistent, you'll wake up one day and realize you transformed. The key is to trust the process, even when the progress is invisible. That's what separates those who succeed from those who quit. Another lesson about small actions is that they create momentum. When you take one small step, it makes the next step easier. If you wake up and make your bed, you've already started your day with a win. That win gives you momentum for the next action, like eating a healthy breakfast, which gives you momentum to be productive at work, which gives you momentum to exercise later. Momentum is built by stacking small wins, and those wins are created by small actions. The compounding effect also teaches us humility. It reminds us that no action is too small to matter. Sometimes we underestimate what we can achieve because we only measure the size of our actions instead of the frequency. But greatness isn't built in grand gestures. It's built in quiet consistency. Think about world-class athletes, best-selling authors, or successful entrepreneurs. Their success isn't a result of one lucky moment. It's the accumulation of years of small, disciplined actions. They understood the compounding effect and used it to their advantage. So, how do you apply this truth in your life? Start by identifying one area where you want to grow: health, relationships, career, or personal development. Then, find the smallest possible action you can take daily. Commit to it, no matter how small it feels. Don't worry about immediate results. Focus on consistency. Trust that the compounding effect will do its work over time. Along the way, remind yourself that every small choice is either a deposit or withdrawal in your future. Each day, you are either moving closer to the life you want or further away from it. The power is in your hands, hidden inside the small actions you choose every day. In the end, success isn't about doing something extraordinary once. It's about doing something ordinary consistently. It's not about what you do occasionally. It's about what you do regularly. The small actions you take may seem invisible today, but they are quietly shaping the results you'll experience tomorrow. Compounding is always working, whether for you or against you. The question is, are you using it to build the life you desire, or are you allowing it to destroy your potential? Part 3. Breaking the cycle of negative habits. How to replace destructive patterns with empowering routines. Negative habits are like invisible chains. You don't always notice them at first because they feel comfortable, familiar, and often harmless in small doses. But over time, these habits tighten around your life, holding you back from growth, keeping you stuck in the same place, and draining your potential little by little. The real danger is not that they instantly ruin your life, it's that they quietly rob you of progress while making you believe everything is fine. Breaking free from negative habits requires awareness, courage, and consistent effort. But the good news is that no matter how deeply ingrained they are, habits can be broken and replaced with better ones. The first step to breaking negative habits is awareness. You cannot change what you don't recognize. Many people live on autopilot, repeating the same destructive behaviors every day without ever stopping to ask why. They snack late at night even though they want to lose weight. They procrastinate even though they want to succeed. They scroll endlessly even though they want more time for meaningful activities. Awareness means stepping back and asking, what habits in my life are holding me back? What actions am I repeating daily that don't serve my goals, my health, or my future? One way to increase awareness is to track your habits. Write down what you do every day from the moment you wake up to the time you sleep. You'll be surprised at how much time and energy disappears into habits you barely notice, like checking your phone first thing in the morning, hitting snooze repeatedly, or eating out of boredom instead of hunger. Tracking is powerful because it makes the invisible visible. Once you see your habits clearly, you can no longer lie to yourself. The second step is to understand the root cause of your negative habits. Every habit, positive or negative, serves a purpose. Maybe it reduces stress, brings comfort, kills boredom, or offers quick pleasure. For example, smoking often isn't about cigarettes. It's about reducing anxiety. Overeating isn't about hunger. It's about filling emotional gaps. Procrastination isn't about laziness. It's about avoiding discomfort. Once you realize that your negative habits are not random but actually serving a deeper need, you can start finding healthier ways to meet those needs. You don't just eliminate a bad habit. You replace it with something better. This brings us to one of the most important truths. You can't simply stop a bad habit. You must replace it. Habits are like grooves in your brain. If you try to erase a groove without filling it with something else, your mind naturally falls back into the old pattern. That's why people who try to quit often relapse. They remove the habit but don't replace it. The key is substitution. For instance, if you're trying to quit late night snacking, replace it with drinking water, brushing your teeth earlier, or journaling before bed. If you want to stop scrolling on your phone for hours, replace it with reading, listening to an audiobook, or walking outside. Replacement is not just about removing a behavior, but about providing your brain with a new, healthier option. Another strategy for breaking negative habits is to change your environment. Habits don't just live in your brain. They're triggered by cues in your surroundings. For example, if you always eat chips while watching TV, the cue is the TV. If you always check your phone when you hear a notification, the cue is the sound. If you always procrastinate when sitting at your desk, the cue might be the clutter around you. By changing your environment, you weaken the triggers of bad habits. Put unhealthy snacks out of sight. Turn off notifications. Clean your workspace. Create friction for bad habits and reduce friction for good ones. If you make it harder to do the bad habit and easier to do the good habit, change becomes natural. Accountability also plays a huge role. Habits thrive in secrecy. As long as nobody knows about them, they feel safe. But when you share your goals with others, friends, family, or even an accountability partner, you create external pressure to stay consistent. For example, if you're trying to exercise more, find a workout buddy. If you're trying to stop smoking, join a support group. Accountability shifts the battle from private willpower to shared responsibility, and that often makes a difference. It's also important to understand the science of cravings. Every bad habit gives you a reward, a spike of dopamine in your brain. That's why habits feel so satisfying, even when they are destructive. The secret is not to fight cravings head-on, but to redirect them. For instance, instead of craving junk food, train yourself to crave the feeling of energy from healthy food. Instead of craving social media likes, train yourself to crave the satisfaction of progress toward your goals. This takes time, but with repetition, your brain begins to associate pleasure with healthier routines. Breaking negative habits also requires patience. Too many people expect instant results. They want to quit smoking in a day, lose weight in a week, or overcome procrastination overnight. But habits don't form instantly, and they don't disappear instantly either. They are built over time, and they are broken over time. That's why progress often feels frustratingly slow. But just like compounding works in building good habits, it also works in breaking bad ones. Every day you resist a bad habit, you weaken its grip. Every time you replace it with something positive, you strengthen a new pattern. Over time, the old habit loses its power, and the new one becomes automatic. Forgiveness is another key part of the process. Breaking habits is not a straight line. You will slip. You will relapse. You will have days when you fall back into old patterns. That doesn't mean you failed. What matters is not perfection but persistence. The danger is not in failing once. The danger is in giving up completely. Think about a plane flying from New York to Los Angeles. If it drifts slightly off course, the pilot doesn't turn back to New York. They make small corrections and keep flying forward. Breaking habits is the same. When you slip, don't restart from zero. Just correct your course and keep going. Let's also talk about identity. Habits are not just actions. They are statements of who you are. If you see yourself as someone who is trying to quit smoking, your brain focuses on the struggle. But if you see yourself as a non-smoker, the habit loses its identity power. If you see yourself as someone trying to be healthy, you might relapse. But if you see yourself as a healthy person, you naturally act in alignment with that belief. Shifting your identity is one of the most powerful ways to break negative habits. Instead of saying, "I'm trying to quit," say, "I don't do that anymore." Words matter because they reinforce who you believe you are. Sometimes, negative habits run deeper than simple routines. They may be tied to trauma, stress, or unresolved emotions. In these cases, breaking them requires more than just discipline. It requires healing. Therapy, journaling, meditation, and self-reflection can help uncover the deeper reasons why you hold on to destructive habits. Once you address the root cause, breaking the habit becomes easy because you're no longer fighting the symptom, you're healing the wound. Another effective method is a habit swap. Instead of focusing on stopping the bad habit, focus on doing something better in the same situation. For example, if you procrastinate by scrolling your phone when you feel overwhelmed, swap it with writing a quick to-do list. If you stress eat, swap it with deep breathing or going for a walk. The habit loop remains. Cue routine, reward, but the routine is healthier. This is powerful because it doesn't remove your brain's natural desire for relief. It simply redirects it. Let's revisit the earlier idea of compounding. Just as small positive actions compound into success, small negative actions compound into failure. Breaking bad habits is about stopping the negative compounding effect and replacing it with a positive one. Every day you resist a negative habit, you break the chain of compounding damage. Every day you practice a positive replacement, you start a new chain of compounding growth. Over time, the destructive cycle becomes a constructive one. And here's something encouraging. The process of breaking habits actually strengthens you. Every time you resist temptation, you build discipline. Every time you say no to a destructive habit, you reinforce self-control. Every time you replace a bad habit with a good one, you grow your resilience. Breaking habits is not just about what you remove from your life. It's about who you become in the process. Finally, let's acknowledge that breaking negative habits is one of the most liberating things you can do for yourself. Imagine your life without procrastination, without overeating, without overspending, without toxic cycles. Imagine the freedom. Part 4. Consistency over intensity. Why showing up every day matters more than going all in once in a while. When most people think about achieving success, they imagine dramatic effort. They picture waking up one morning with unstoppable motivation, working all day with full energy, giving everything in one giant push, and then suddenly arriving at their goal. This idea is exciting, but it is not how real success is built. Real success is not about how hard you work in a single burst of energy. It is about how consistently you show up day after day, even when the excitement fades. Intensity may grab attention, but consistency is what builds results. Think about fitness. You can go to the gym and work out so hard that you are sore for a week. That one workout might make you feel proud, but it won't transform your body. On the other hand, if you commit to moving your body every day, whether it's a 20-minute walk, a short workout, or stretching, you will see real change over time. The difference between the person who trains once in a while with intensity and the person who trains consistently with moderation is massive. The consistent person may not look impressive on day one, but months and years later, they will have the strength, energy, and discipline that intensity alone can never build. Consistency wins because it creates rhythm. When you do something regularly, it becomes a part of your lifestyle. You don't need to think about whether you should do it. You simply do it because it is part of your identity. This rhythm creates momentum, and momentum is one of the strongest forces in human behavior. Once you're moving in the right direction, it becomes easier to keep moving. Intensity, on the other hand, often breaks momentum. People push too hard, burn out, and then stop. They feel guilty, start again, push too hard again, and repeat the cycle. That's why many people feel stuck. They rely on intensity instead of consistency. One of the greatest benefits of consistency is that it compounds. Small, repeated actions build up over time. Writing 1 page a day may not feel like much, but in a year, you will have a book. Saving a few dollars every day may feel insignificant, but in 10 years, you will have wealth. Practicing a skill for just 15 minutes daily may feel small, but over months and years, it makes you a master. This is a hidden power of consistency. It makes small actions matter in the long run. Now, let's look at why consistency is difficult for many people. One reason is that humans are emotional beings. We rely too much on how we feel in the moment. If we feel motivated, we act. If we don't, we wait. But consistency requires showing up regardless of emotion. It's about doing the right thing even on the days when you don't feel like it. This is where discipline comes in. Discipline is not about punishment. It's about choosing your long-term goals over short-term feelings. When you train yourself to be consistent, you learn to act not because you feel like it, but because you've decided it matters. Another challenge is that consistency feels boring compared to intensity. People like excitement. They want quick results, big wins, dramatic change. Consistency, however, is slow and steady. It's about repetition, patience, and trust in the process. That can feel unglamorous. But here's the truth. The boring work is often the work that changes your life. Writing daily, practicing daily, saving daily, exercising daily. These things are not exciting, but they build results that are extraordinary. Success often hides in the boring things you do consistently. Consistency also builds trust with yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your self-confidence. Every time you skip what you promised, you weaken that trust. Imagine you have a friend who says, "I'll meet you at 7," but they show up only once in a while. Would you trust them? Probably not. In the same way, if you tell yourself, "I'll work on my goals daily," but you only follow through occasionally, you stop trusting yourself. That lack of trust eats away at your confidence. Consistency rebuilds that trust. Each time you show up, you prove to yourself that you can be counted on. That creates a powerful inner belief. I can rely on me. One of the best ways to stay consistent is to lower the barrier of entry. Many people fail because they set goals that are too big in the beginning. They want to work out for 2 hours every day, write 50 pages in a week, or meditate for an hour daily. When life gets busy, these big goals feel overwhelming, so they quit. The secret is to start small. Do something so easy you cannot say no. Instead of promising to exercise for an hour, commit to 10 minutes. Instead of promising to write a chapter, commit to 1 paragraph. Once you start, you often do more than you planned. But even if you don't, you stay consistent, and that's what matters most. Consistency also requires systems. Willpower alone is not enough. You need routines, reminders, and structures that make the habit easier to follow. For example, if you want to exercise consistently, prepare your workout clothes the night before. If you want to eat healthier, stock your kitchen with good food. If you want to read daily, keep a book by your bed or in your bag. Systems remove friction. They make the habit the default choice instead of something you have to fight for. Let's talk about a practical example. Imagine 2 people trying to learn guitar. The first practices intensely for 3 hours every Sunday. The second practices for 15 minutes every day. After a month, the Sunday guitarist has 12 hours of practice, while the daily guitarist is around 7.5. It looks like the first person is ahead. But after a year, the Sunday guitarist has 156 hours, while the daily guitarist has 91 hours. Still, the Sunday guitarist appears ahead. But here's the difference. The daily guitarist has built muscle memory, rhythm, and routine through repetition. The Sunday guitarist starts fresh every week, forgetting some of what they learned. Over time, the consistent guitarist becomes much better, even with fewer total hours, because consistency creates lasting progress, while intensity without frequency creates inconsistency. Another truth about consistency is that it makes you resilient. When you show up daily, you learn to push through obstacles. You learn to adapt. You learn that one bad day doesn't ruin the journey. Intensity often fails when life throws challenges because big efforts are fragile. They depend on perfect conditions. Consistency, however, adapts. If you can't run 5 miles a day, you walk one. If you can't write 5 pages, you write 1 paragraph. By showing up in any capacity, you keep the chain alive. Consistency teaches flexibility, and flexibility keeps you moving forward even when life is messy. Consistency also brings long-term rewards that intensity cannot. For example, relationships thrive on consistency. A single big gesture, a fancy gift, or a surprise trip feels good, but it cannot replace daily act of kindness, listening, and attention. In careers, one impressive project may catch attention, but it is a consistent delivery of quality work that builds trust and reputation. In health, crash diets and extreme workouts may bring quick results, but they never last. Sustainable health comes from consistent daily choices. Here's another perspective. Consistency turns goals into lifestyles. Anyone can achieve a short-term goal with intensity, but maintaining results requires consistency. Losing weight with a strict diet is possible, but keeping it off requires consistent healthy habits. Writing a book in a burst of energy is possible, but becoming a writer requires consistent practice. Saving a large amount of money once is possible, but building wealth requires consistent saving and investing. Consistency transforms one-time wins into permanent parts of your identity. Now, let's address the mental side. Consistency reduces decision fatigue. When you decide in advance to do something daily, you no longer waste energy debating whether to do it. The habit becomes automatic. For example, if you decided to exercise every morning, you don't spend mental energy asking, "Should I work out today?" You just do it. That saves your willpower for more important decisions. Intensity, on the other hand, requires constant decision-making. Do I feel motivated enough today to go all in? That's exhausting, and it often leads to quitting. Consistency also builds credibility with others. People trust those who show up regularly, not those who appear once in a while with big gestures. If you want to lead, influence, or inspire others, consistency matters more than talent. Your reliability becomes your strength. Whether in friendships, leadership, or business, people respect those who can be counted on. That respect is not earned in one intense moment. It is earned through consistent action over time. Of course, consistency does not mean perfection. You don't have to be flawless to succeed. You will miss days. You will face setbacks. But true consistency allows room for failure without losing momentum. If you miss one day, you don't quit. You continue the next day. What matters is not never failing, but never quitting. Consistency is about the overall pattern, not a perfect record. That's why the most successful people are not those who never fail, but those who never give up. In the end, intensity may look impressive in the moment, but consistency is what truly changes lives. Consistency is quiet. It doesn't make headlines. It doesn't give instant gratification, but it builds results that last a lifetime. Every great athlete, artist, entrepreneur, or leader you admire didn't succeed because of one intense effort. They succeeded because they showed up consistently, day after day, year after year. So the real question is, will you rely on short bursts of intensity that fade, or will you commit to the steady power of consistency? The choice is yours. But remember this, consistency may not be glamorous, but it is a secret ingredient that turns ordinary actions into extraordinary results. Part 5. Designing your future with intentional habits. How to align your daily routines with your long-term vision and goals. Every life is built twice. First, it is designed in the mind through vision, dreams, and choices. Second, it is built in reality through habits, actions, and daily routines. The life you are living right now is not an accident. It is a result of the habits you've chosen, whether intentionally or unconsciously. This is why designing your future requires more than dreaming big. Dreams without daily habits are just wishes. To bring your vision into reality, you must create routines that support it, habits that pull you forward, and patterns that align with the person you want to become. Think of it like constructing a house. You wouldn't start building by randomly stacking bricks, hoping it somehow turns into your dream home. You will begin with a blueprint, a clear design, and then follow it step by step. Your life is no different. The blueprint is your vision, the future you want to live. The bricks are your daily habits. The way you arrange them, day by day, determines whether you create a solid home or fragile structure. When you act without intention, you build without a plan. But when you design your habits with purpose, you construct the future you've always imagined. The first step in intentional habit design is clarity. You cannot align your routines with your goals if you don't know what those goals are. Many people drift through life because they have vague desires but no specific vision. They say things like, I want to be successful, or I want to be happy, but they don't define what success or happiness means to them. Without clarity, your habits will scatter in different directions. Clarity gives you a target. It helps you choose habits that truly matter and avoid wasting energy on things that don't serve your vision. Once you are clear about your goals, the next step is alignment. This is where many people stumble. They dream of one thing but live in a way that contradicts it. For example, someone may dream of financial freedom but spends recklessly. Another may dream of strong health but eats poorly and avoids exercise. A person may dream of deep relationships but never invests time in loved ones. This mismatch creates frustration. To design your future, you must align your habits with your vision. Every action should act as a step toward the future you want, not away from it. Designing intentional habits also requires starting small but thinking long-term. Your daily actions may seem tiny, but over years they add up to massive results. If your vision is to become financially free, your intentional habit might be setting aside a small amount every day, learning a new skill, or tracking expenses. If your vision is health, your intentional habit might be daily movement, drinking more water, or getting enough sleep. If your vision is stronger relationships, your habit might be sending a thoughtful message daily or spending tech-free time with loved ones. Small, intentional actions compound into life-changing outcomes. Another key part of intentional habit design is identity. Instead of focusing only on what you want to achieve, focus on who you want to become. Goals are about outcomes, but identity is about character. For example, instead of saying, I want to run a marathon, say, I want to become a runner. Instead of saying, I want to write a book, say, I want to be a writer. When you focus on identity, habits become natural. A runner runs, a writer writes, a leader leads. Habits that align with identity feel less like chores and more like expressions of who you are. To strengthen this process, use environment design. Your environment influences your habits more than willpower does. If your goal is to eat healthier, design your kitchen to make good choices easier by stocking fruits and removing junk food. If your goal is to read daily, place books where you can see them. If your goal is to work with focus, remove distraction from your workspace. Environment shapes behavior. By designing your surroundings, you make intentional habits automatic. Another part of designing habits for your future is accountability. People often underestimate how powerful accountability can be. When you share your goals with someone you trust or join a community with similar values, you feel a greater responsibility to follow through. Accountability creates social pressure, encouragement, and support. It is harder to quit when others are walking with you. Whether it's a friend, a mentor, or a group, accountability transforms private intentions into shared commitments, making you more consistent. The beauty of intentional habits is that they allow you to reverse engineer your future. Instead of waiting for life to happen, you build the future deliberately. Ask yourself, if I want to be this kind of person in 5 years, what habits must I start practicing today? Then design routines that reflect that If you want to be a calm, centered person, start a habit of mindfulness. If you want to be a successful entrepreneur, start a habit of learning about business daily. If you want to be a great parent, start a habit of quality time with your children. By connecting your present routine to your future vision, you bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Of course, designing habits is not enough. You must also protect them. Life will test your consistency. There will be busy days, stressful weeks, and unexpected challenges. That is why resilience matters. Protect your habits by planning for obstacles in advance. If you travel, decide how you will exercise on the road. If you face stress, plan healthy coping strategies. If you lose motivation, remind yourself of your vision. Protecting your habits is like guarding the foundation of your future house. Without it, everything collapses. Now, let's talk about balance. Designing your future with intentional habits does not mean overloading yourself with routines. Too many habits at once create overwhelm and failure. The key is to choose the habits that matter most and build them slowly. It's better to master 3 powerful habits than to juggle 10 weak ones. Think of them as keystone habits, routines that influence many areas of life. For example, exercise not only improves health, but also boosts energy, mood, and productivity. Reading not only increases knowledge, but also sparks creativity and focus. By choosing keystone habits, you get a ripple effect that improves multiple parts of your life. Another important aspect is patience. Designing your future is not about instant change. It's about gradual, sustainable transformation. Many people quit because they expect results too quickly. They want overnight success. But real growth takes time. Seeds don't turn into trees overnight. Habits don't transform lives in a week. But over months and years, intentional habits create unstoppable momentum. Patience allows you to trust the process and keep building even when results are not visible yet. As you continue, you'll notice something powerful. Your habits will begin to shape your identity, and your identity will reinforce your habits. At first, you design habits intentionally. Later, those habits design you. A person who reads daily becomes a thinker. A person who exercises daily becomes an athlete. A person who saves daily becomes financially wise. This cycle strengthens over time until your habits and your vision merge into one. That is the true power of intentional living. Designing your future through intentional habits is not just about achieving goals. It is about creating meaning. When your daily routines reflect your deepest values, life feels purposeful. You no longer drift. You no longer feel like time is slipping away. Instead, you live deliberately, knowing each action contributes to something bigger. This is the difference between surviving and thriving, between living by default and living by design. And so, as you close this chapter, ask yourself, what kind of future do I want to build? What kind of person do I want to become? And what daily habits can I start today that will take me there? The answers to these questions will shape not just your tomorrow, but your entire destiny. And tomorrow, we step into a truth that can transform everything, the power of resilience. Life is not always smooth. Obstacles, setbacks, and failures will come. But it is not the fall that defines you. It is the rise. On day 11, we will unlock the strength to bounce back stronger, turn pain into power, and use resilience as your greatest weapon for success. Don't miss it. The next chapter may change the way you see challenges forever.